opening the meeting because I've been serving as the committee chair for community relations, but I'm in a bit of a situation personally that is not going to allow me to be as present for the work that needs to be done. So I'm really hopeful that as we open um, the selection of our 2023 committee chair, that someone else will be willing to step forward to assume that role. So with that said, let's open the nominations, please.
Sure. I'll nominate Michelle.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, seconded by Al. All right, any other nominations? All right, nominations are closed. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, congratulations, Michelle. I'll turn the reins over to you.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your support. And of course, still hope to be working closely with Kate and Anne and everyone, Mike. So I'm thrilled, and the other board members. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Mike. Is that okay to go over the agenda now?
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you, Michelle. And I just want to say thank you to Kate. It was great working with you last year. I wish you all the best and what you have going on. And Michelle, I look forward to working with you on this committee, and we'll have a good year ahead. So let's dive in. So that was number one, was selection of the committee chair. And we just have two other quick items on the agenda. And I actually think this will be a pretty quick one. As you all know, Ann Mead's work in the Family Engagement Office is tremendous. I heard her talking a little bit about the food truck today. But we have a couple community budget workshops coming up. The season is all about the budget. And,
I'm sorry, Rob. Can anybody take notes today? All right, Kate. Thank you. I'm sorry to a big point to make. Thank you. Go continue.
As we all know, this is the budget season. So I know there's a big kickoff meeting coming in February with Erica Haynes from the Connecticut School Finance Project, and she's going to tell us all about how to understand the budget, how to think about it, how to advocate for it, and a whole host of other things. But I'll let Anne get right into that, and then we can roll right into the collective impact efforts underway. So I'll hand over to Anne.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you. Congratulations, Michelle, and on your new chairperson position. And thank you, Mike. And I echo Mike's comments to Kate for the work and the support that you've done for this committee over the last couple of years. So much appreciated. And of course, appreciate everyone that's on as part of the committee. So let's start with the activities that are happening in our office. So we did already send out a Parent Square message to all of our families in the district, telling them about tomorrow night and encouraging families to come to the board workshop. They know they can't talk. A few of them, I'm sure, will ask that night if they can ask questions, but it's really, we have had parents that have come to our forums, have sent in emails, have been in attendance at the Coffees with Kevin. And so we really feel it's important to have really super open access for these families to be able to come back in and see the work. You know, they've requested certain things be done, certain things be added into the budget. So this is the opportune time for them to be able to come back and see where we've put things into the budget that they've asked for. So that's on the docket for tomorrow night. We then go to a little bit different off the budget, but this Saturday, we start with a class of about 24, starting the Parent Supporting Educational Excellency. And that'll be we start with Saturday morning, then we go to Thursday nights, and that'll be done both virtually and in person. It's a great opportunities for our families to learn more about how the school system works, policies and procedures, how they're developed, how the state governs our schools, how policies are made, and how they can become really change makers and advocates for the district. Grace and her team right now are just finishing up PEP. And I think in that PEP, we probably have close to 45 to 50 people that will graduate on Friday, the 3rd, I believe it is, of February. So we're really excited. This is the first year we've been able to offer it in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. both classes filled up. And so we'll have a whole group that will graduate. Starting in February, we will have a Spanish PEP class, and that will be taught by one of our Spanish-speaking family liaisons that is trained through UConn to be able to teach this curriculum. So we're also excited about that. Then that brings us to what Mike was talking about with the storytelling and the advocacy work, with a workshop titled, it will be in person at the Black Box, beginning at 7 o'clock, titled Storytelling and Advocacy Go Hand in Hand. And so this is a workshop that Erica Haynes from the Connecticut School and Finance Project with her team will actually help parents understand how important their own stories about their children, how they either progressed and graduated from Danbury schools or are in Danbury schools right now, and what programs are really special. And then how do they continue to advocate for that? How do they talk to things around the ECS formula? How do they talk to legislators? But not just saying, we want more money for the district. How do they tell their story about why certain things in education was really important to their family? That's what our legislators really want to hear, the importance to our families and to our community. And of course, we'll have families also talk about return on investment. That, you know, if students have great education, which they do in Danbury, then they'll stay in Danbury, and that's a return on investment. So she'll talk a little bit about that. We are tracking very closely all of the bills, as well as Mr. Walston's tracking them. I know, Mike, you're tracking them too. Erica gives us almost a daily briefing on what bills are coming up and different times that we can jump in and do virtual testimony. So that's a good thing coming up. January 23rd, we have New Promise, and that is filled up with about 35 new families to the district to go through that 14 or 15 pages of module work. So families can get equipped with what they need in the district, Power School. Here are policies around attendance and the things that matters to families. And then March 25th is our next Family University. So, and that Family University will be pre-K through 12th grade, unlike our one that we had in December that was just the preschool through 2nd grade. However, those folks that were the December folks, they are coming back on February 4th to pick up materials, and we're going to talk to them about how the work that they did at the first Family University and the things that they learned of how to work with their children, how is that changing their behavioral practices at home and working with their children? And I think for me, the biggest takeaway that day was families walked out and said, you know what? I never realized counting Tupperware lids or doing math with shampoo in the bathroom tub and doing counting was something that I could do with my preschooler, with my kindergarten, for them to learn their math facts. So the parents were pretty impressed with the ease or the easiness of the materials that we gave them. And they'll be receiving more materials when they come back for that. So that's pretty much what we're doing. We do have Coffee with Kevin on the 25th of February. I think that's the date. It's the last Saturday of the month. And we will also be meeting in a very similar format as Coffee with Kevin with our teachers and other folks in the district, so that we really can have a good 360 review of how everyone's feeling and have that conversation between folks and Kevin. I'm sorry, Kevin just put in March 25th. So thank you, Kevin.
No, February.
Kevin, do you want to speak about the last Coffee with Kevin a little bit and the content?
Oh, you mean our last meeting?
Yeah.
With our families?
Yeah.
Well, all of the meetings are good, frankly, but this last one was a lot about advocating for our school budget. We had a number of parents who were asking for specifics on how they can get involved and how they can further support the school budget. And it was really good to see kind of the desire to be part of a movement to help support the budget. And so we had parents who were looking to organize to help support and find ways to rally support of parents to support the budget. So it was really good to see. And we actually had, before we got off the phone, a couple of the families actually connected with each other and shared each other's information. A couple of parents who actually volunteered to kind of serve as certainly spokespeople or take on a leadership role. So it was really good to see. Of course, Anne made them aware of some subsequent meetings that will be taking place to further inform our families about school budgeting process. We had Erica Haynes coming in after that meeting. I forget the date right now, but it was a really good meeting. In addition to the typical questions that I get just about school functioning and, things that need to be tweaked to help better serve our families. But the meetings are just getting better and better. And it's really good to see our families are just coming out more and more informed and really asking questions, not just for them, but really on the behalf of all Danbury students. It's been really good, Anne. Thank you.
Thank you. And what I found more and more so, families aren't just asking about their specific child. They're talking about systemic things in the district, both on the positive and the negative side. And so that's a different level than we've had in the past. And so I think that in itself is a strength of our families to really be able to look at something not just that impacts their family, but it impacts more folks. So that next one, as Kevin said, on February 25th, will actually be held in person at the Faith Center. And so we can make it a true coffee with Kevin with actual mugs and coffee and some breakfast refreshments.
Although
So
I've always had coffee in those meetings, Anne, just to.
that's right. I know. You've got that K cup, well, the gray K cup. Absolutely. Absolutely. So any questions about what we're doing or other thoughts of things that we should do? I look to all of you as eyes and ears more in the community too. Yeah, Kate.
I just want to clarify a couple dates, Dr. Mead, because I apologize, I missed them.
and
You
I went
mentioned the
really
PEP
fast, sorry.
graduation.
PEP graduation, I believe, is on the 3rd. I
February
will
3rd?
confirm. Yeah, I will confirm that.
I'll look
And
it
then
up.
you
really
mentioned,
quick. February
Thank you.
3rd from 6 to 7. Sorry.
That's
Kate.
6,
And the
7.
PEP class, I didn't hear the date on when that one was going to be commencing.
The new one, I believe, is right the week afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Grace and I are still going back and forth with the date because we have so many different things going on. We're really aiming to, not have it conflicting things going on. So we're still working on that start date.
I caught the storytelling at 7 p.m. Storytelling and advocacy, but what was that date? I didn't
So
get that.
that's February 13th. That's a Monday night.
Thank you.
Yep.
So if
that was my other question. Thank you.
if any of the board members can make these events, especially our committee, that would be great. So please mark it down on your calendars. Let me know if you can be there. And, because I was at that December 4th university and it was great. It was a challenging weekend. There was a lot going on before the holiday and it really, I was only going to stay, 2 hours. I ended up staying a lot longer and it was great to talk to the people and, our parents and our fellow, committee members. It was just really a nice environment. And the petting zoo was amazing.
Really cool.
It was amazing. So thank you so much for that hard work. And you guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you. Thank you. Kate?
Could I just make a suggestion, a friendly suggestion? One of the things that we did at that last Family University was just to put out a space for folks to communicate with board members there, and to give them sort of like the option of taking a Post-it away and bringing it back if they weren't so comfortable hanging out and having us watch them. If we could continue that practice to sort of try to open up those lines of communication, I hope that we could continue to use that as a tool. Thanks.
And I'll make sure that the resource room has space for that because I think, Kate, you got some wonderful feedback. I mean, in English, Spanish, and in Portuguese. And the take that I had on it and feedback from families was they're really listening. You know, they hear about this, you know, the Board of Ed as being like this really scary group, but we're all human, you're all human, and you care. And so the
So the
takeaway.
board
for
is not a
parents-
scary group, Anne, is that what you're saying?
Say again?
The
Say
board is
again?
not a scary group?
No, they're not. And
Depends on who you're talking to.
sorry. That's true. But no, you're not a scary group. And I think our families felt that. They took away that you were approachable. And I think you had some absolutely wonderful conversations. I know at one point Ralph was there. Kate, you were certainly at the table, Michelle, and there were a couple of other, Julie, I think you were there too, right?
Mhm.
And people just came up and had a conversation with you. That's perfect. That's really perfect for our families. They really like that. Yeah. Great.
Great. Anybody else have any comments? Board members? Anybody who's not a board member? Any thoughts? No? That's it? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody then. I guess I'm going to be closing out the meeting. Going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Mike, did you have something?
No,
Did
I just wanted to make sure, Anne, you hit everything you wanted on the collective impact. I know that was.
I didn't. Can we talk about that though? I think it's really important. I'd rather have you, Michelle, have you all hear this from myself and from
Okay.
Kevin's perspective too, versus people start asking you about what is this collective impact in Danbury? Is that okay?
Please.
Okay,
Fine.
great. So collective impact is a state and a national level movement of, and I'll talk slower on this because it's got a lot of pieces. It's a pretty dense work, but
Okay.
it is a movement of people in a community towards common goals. So we have been over the last several years watching Norwalk Acts, which is in its 13th, 14th year now, of bringing all community partners together first to assess where there were gaps in services from cradle to career. So it's a big chunk of a child's life. And from there, they develop what's called cornerstones, and they pick out certain cornerstones or goals that the community wants to work on. And so Norwalk has, I think right now, probably 8 or 10 cornerstones. Similar projects in Connecticut are the Bridgeport Prospers, Stanford, Cradle to Career, and Waterbury has the Waterbury Bridges program. And so we have toyed around and tried several different attempts at collective impact under many different other groups in Danbury, at least through my tenure for the last 30 years doing this type of work in Danbury. And because of politics or because of just things, the way things shook out and not having money up front, they fell apart. Well, Nellie Mae put out a proposal back about a year ago now, and we're looking for communities that they had previously worked with and that they had trust in to put in a community-driven initiative, not a school-driven initiative, but a community-driven initiative. And so we did apply to Nellie Mae as a school district with a thought of a community impact driven by the community. Our proposal was responded to positively in the dollar amount of $200,000. And then their board, Nellie Mae Foundation, looked at it and upped it to $250,000 for the first 18 months. We have taken that money, and let me back up before we go over the money. When a collective impact idea is in its formulation stages, it's really important to look at key partners that do very similar work in communities all throughout the United States. And the United Way is a community group, as many of you know, here run by Isabel Amida. And in most of the collective impacts throughout the United States, and there's a whole federal movement of STRIVE organizations that are community impact, United Way is their backbone organization. And so we have had Nellie Mae, and there's been all kinds of MOUs and MOAs, memorandum of understanding and agreements, that United Way is the backbone organization for this. And so through the work of developing the proposal, we began to work with an Alex Lunding out of Simsbury, and he is a contractor consultant that does this type of work. He's very well known in the Bridgeport Prospers work, of course, the Stanford work, and in the work that has been done in Norwalk. And so we had several conversations as we developed the grant, put things together. And I know even before we put this grant in, Kevin and I and a group had sat with him to just talk about what could collective impact look like in Danbury. So now fast forward, the money comes, United Way is the backbone organization. And we have several smaller meetings at the beginning before December of what this was going to look like and getting the wheels turning to get it started. From there, we had our first meeting in December with about 10 different people, key people that were part of the original proposal that said, my organization is ready to roll up our sleeves and start this work. It is not easy work. It's time consuming. It is a really thought-provoking work. There's a whole data piece that goes with it. There's a whole framework that you actually follow. It's not something you say, let's have coffee over and let's put this in a year we'll be good to go. So the process that we're going through is really more important than trying to rush through this process. So we had our 10 folks in December. We then realized that we were missing a couple other agencies in Danbury. And so we've reached out to them. So our next meeting is tomorrow at beginning at 11:15. We outgrew the United Way conference room and have moved to the Danbury Police Station for tomorrow. And so my ask tonight is that at some point, and perhaps I need to go through Ralph for this, we would love to have a Board of Ed member that could sit on this committee as well. Okay, so that's ask number one. The work that we have done so far at that first meeting was really introducing what collective impact was. Our meeting tomorrow, and at that first meeting, we brought in folks from Stanford and from Waterbury, and they talked about what to look out for, what was successful in their beginning startup stages and things like that. We wanted to learn from the best. Tomorrow's meeting, we will have Monroe Nichols or a colleague of his from Cincinnati from the STRIVE movement, which is a national organization that supports collective impacts at the local level. It's going to come in and talk more about the national model and the support that they can give us. Tomorrow we'll also be introducing a community asset mapping program that we'll be going through before the next meeting, so that we can really identify where are the gaps in Danbury. And then over the next two meetings, we hope to have the work group or the smaller group, and we're up to about 20 people now, really say, what are our goals going to be? I mean, are they going to be in early childhood and mental health, early childhood and reading? This is something where the folks that sit on this committee will decide. And then after they come up, not decide, when they come up with some proposals, we'll then hold a much bigger community meeting about what collective impact is and say to folks, do you agree with what we're assuming already would be our very best cornerstones or goals that we can have for this project? And then it'll come back to the smaller group of 20 or 25 of us to work on. And then there will be smaller groups that will actually take on those goals to work. So it's an ongoing process. It is a fair amount of work. Alex, the consultant that I just spoke about, has already met with Kevin and our data person, because the data in the district will be very, very important. The work of this collective impact, so many of you may be saying, so what's this got to do with the school district? So there are things that schools can't always do, but a collective impact actually complements the work that schools do around education. And so one of the things that comes to mind very quickly is if, and I think Kevin, you used this example the other day, that if you're out with a sports team and that coach can talk to those kids about, hey, you're all going to school every day, right? You're not playing hooky. You're not, just hanging out, not going to school, but how important school is. So that would be, whether it be an athletic association or a group like that, they're able to support what we're trying to do around good, normal, regular attendance with our kids at school. So, Kevin, do you want to add a little bit about your experience? You've actually been part of a collective impact.
Right. So I've been a fan of the collective impact, mostly because of my time in Waterbury, and I had an opportunity and privilege to be part of the collective impact there for the 3 years I was there. I was 2 years on that committee. And really an additional way to look at it, as Ann had described, it's really an organization that is complementing the goals that the district already has. But some of those goals and some of those initiatives might be outside of the reach of a school district. So for example, early childhood goals or prenatal to age 3 goals, which certainly helps to address kindergarten readiness, but it could be an initiative of the entire community to address prenatal to 3-year-old and then 3 to 5-year-old initiatives to make sure kids are ready for school. Out of school time, and to Ann's point and the example that she gave, but make sure kids are engaged in activities all throughout the school year, and also outside of also the school day. And so having people at the table, perhaps working with the city of Danbury and other profit and nonprofit groups around trying to get kids engaged in activities throughout the school year. And so, in any social emotional goals that we might have as a community, if to begin with, just making sure our families are ready and all have, and their kids have their physicals at the beginning of the year, and how we can make sure our families are ready and that the city is ready to make sure we prioritize kids being in school on the first day, so that we don't have any delays. And again, all of these things, these are the type of initiatives that are outside of the reach of the district, but certainly are priorities for the school district. And so we're looking forward to this potential partnership. And I'm not sure if you mentioned, but when talking about the funding that arrived, we applied for a grant with Nellie Mae. And Nellie Mae supported this initiative. The grant was actually written in a way where the collective impact slid in there nicely and was actually eligible for the grants. I'm hoping that this grant is something that will, it may not necessarily be written the same exact way annually, but I'm hoping that we can count on some ongoing funding from Nellie Mae. If not, we will have to find ways to secure funding to keep this going. But the important thing is that we have the foundation to get this team started, something that we've been talking about for a couple of years now, and really happy and excited that we are moving forward with the collective impact and really have starting to get all the right people at the table to make sure these community initiatives and goals can come together for the school district and the school community. So thank you, Ann.
Thank you. Thank you. The exciting news is, we have not officially announced anything. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but we wanted to go through the process to make sure the board was aware of what we're doing, and other groups as well. But there's a woman by the name of Dr. Janice Grendel that does a lot of work around infants and toddlers, and she's doing some work right now around prenatal care of moms on Medicare. And in her draft report that just came out 2 weeks ago, she said that she's working with the 4 Connecticut communities that have collective impact, and soon to be Danbury, Connecticut. And immediately my phone rang by the 4 key funders that fund collective impact in Danbury. And they wanted to know where we were, what do we do, and can they have a seat at the table? So, and I've had conversations with a couple of them prior to receiving the money from Nellie Mae, and that they're very interested in seeing this whole thing through. So beginning stages, but we're gonna get there. Absolutely gonna get there. So,
And I just wanted to make everyone aware, I just put 2 links in the
oh,
chat.
wonderful.
One for the Waterbury Bridges to Success Collective Impact, and then a Norwalk Acts Collective Impact, and that you were referencing as
Yeah.
well.
Thank you. Yes, but, get yourself a good, strong cup of coffee and look at both of their, particularly the Norwalk site is just really, really impressive. They have one dashboard, one community dashboard that every agency functions in. And so this past summer, I think they had 42 or 47 agencies that work with school age students provide every child in Norwalk a summer experience. So that in itself is huge. So not going to happen here, next year, but something, definitely a goal to work towards. So
Thanks.
that's
Anna.
it. Yeah.
I just
Question?
want to, add, I'm such a big fan and proponent of this work, and I know you already had laid some tracks with it by the time I got here, but I'm really excited to be joining you guys with this. I did a little bit of this work in some previous lives back in the Midwest and on the West Coast, and it's really one of those things where you don't even realize sometimes the resources you have available to you in your community, and I've, some of the research on these, you see, local businesses, workforce training, police and fire, cultural centers, health clinics, community centers, airports, right? Like all these. I remember there was one in New York where the water taxi got involved because the kids were going to that maritime school on Governor's Island. It's like you don't even realize, like, oh my gosh, this is a resource that will be helping kids. So it's just so exciting to be on the sort of ground floor of this and getting to shape what this is going to look like in Danbury, because every place it happens, it has its own unique fingerprint, because every community is different, every population is different, and we get to decide what this looks like for us. So I'm very excited about it.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Mike.
Good work. Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Oh, and I just have
Yeah.
2 questions. You
Yeah.
had mentioned that there were initially 10 members and now you're moving into 20 for the
Yes.
next. Who in the community have you already recruited those initial 10 other than, Kevin, yourself? Like,
Mhm, mhm.
that,
So,
who
yeah, good question. So the initial signers on the grant were, let's see, Healthy Families Network, Sue Gilio's group, the Michelle James's group, the Community Action of Western Connecticut, United Way, Stand Together, Make a Difference, and then all of the alumni for our PEP and our Parent C group from last year.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's
there's
where
a
we-
library representation up there.
Yes, the library is on there too. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Since then, we have had Civic, the Community Health Center on Main Street, reach out, and many more parents. The health department is going to be joining us as well, because we really feel that there will be a major health component in all of this. Our next tier, I'm just going through my notes here. Our next tier will be to reach out to more community groups, cultural centers, and groups like that, because that will be our next step in, fulfilling the group. And then for this particular meeting now, we have many parents that are either graduates of PEP or Parent C that will be joining us. We still need to identify some students that we'd like to be part of it. But we have a really nice mix of folks tomorrow.
And tomorrow you had mentioned that it's at the police station. What time is that? And is it?
It starts at 11:15 with a light lunch, and we delve right in at 11:30, and it's 2 hours of powering through an agenda that we worked on with Alex. And so he asked the hard questions, which is good because it really makes us think about what we're doing in the process that we're going through. So he'll do a level setting and go through the minutes from the last meeting to make sure that everyone's on the same page, introduce the new folks. We'll talk about asset mapping for tomorrow, what the community looks like and how that tool is going to be used. We'll actually go through the use of it. And then we've got a couple other things on the agenda that we need to, some logistical things that we need to talk about. A regular date for a meeting. Right now, we've been using Doodle Poll. And we want to go to, the same date every single month to meet. And then the smaller committees can meet in between those bigger meetings.
Okay, so you're looking to meet once a month and then the smaller committees.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And are you going to be recording, streaming this? Because I can't make it for this meeting. I wasn't aware of it, but I would
Mhm.
love to see it.
Yeah, we can, because we are streaming in the gentleman from Cincinnati. So we have all this new technology. You can really do really cool stuff. So if anyone on this committee would like to send me a request to be there, we can bring you in and live stream you in. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you are like, if I have a conflict at that moment, I
Mhm.
can log on at another time. You can forward me the link, or
We can forward you the link. Yes, yes.
And the
Yeah.
entire meeting is available remotely, or just the person who's coming in? and
Just
coming in?
right now, just the person
Yeah, that's what I thought.
that is speaking. Yeah, that's coming in from Cincinnati.
So we can record him and have him available. but
Yes, absolutely.
But I think the question is, can folks stream into the meeting to be part of the meeting? I think.
I'm not going to say no. We'll make that work. I think that's really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's clear.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'm very interested about this new program you're looking to do. But if there's any other board members that are also interested in possibly, volunteering for the board as well, please let me know. Get back to you. Anybody have any questions on this?
You sent me all the information on an email, pretty much.
Can we send it to you? Yes.
Yes. I
Yeah,
can
we
have
can-
the review and have it in the back of my head.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, do that for, I don't know, myself as well, any of the board
Okay.
members here.
Great.
Would love.
Could I just ask a question?
Yeah.
And as I sit here and listen, to listen to the $250,000 you have coming to get parents involved, and that's been my goal ever since I got involved in the community here in Danville. But as I listen now, it's not an entire community; it's a one-sided community. So we go back, and my question would be, how do you get the other part of the community to join in with the other part of the community that you're leaving out?
Mm-hmm. So, go ahead, Julie.
When we're talking about part of the community and the part that's being left out, can you be a little bit more specific?
No, I'm talking about, because what I'm saying, I'm being very specific, because we're only talking about one segment of the community from what I hear and what I see that's coming up at the meetings and questions. We're only sort of looking and guarantee that this segment of the community get the information. So my question to you would be, how do we impact the community that are not attending things that Ann is putting on, that they is talking about as far as her community?
And if I may,
Yeah.
something like this might be one of the challenges that's raised in the group, that we
Mhm.
decide this is going to be one of the goals we tackle.
Mhm.
And we say, there are certain parents we just can't get to come to meetings and, come to school, and we're going to put together a metric. We're going to look at all the resources we have and say, this is our year one goal, is to engage, more people in the community. And
Mhm.
all those heads come together and think of, okay, we could do it through this cultural center, or I see people over here, or, the athletic leagues, or what, parks, wherever. That's exactly this type of thing that I think would be addressed.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. And then also to follow up with that, my thing would be, how would you contact? I belong to New Hope Baptist Church,
Mhm.
okay, and I'm quite sure Ann doesn't go over there spreading the message that she just spread tonight. So how do you get those? Because they have parents over there. just like parents over
Mhm.
at Round Street Church
Mhm.
down at 805 that needs to learn to understand the budget process too, just like the other parents, and
Mhm.
they want to learn.
Mhm. So if I can answer Mrs. Cooper, the budget question, we use Parent Square. And so that's our fairly new, we're a year into it now, of reaching parents. So every message that goes out in the parents' desired language. And every message that goes out reaches 18,000 folks that are members have children in our school and are community members. And so if you can think of anyone that you would like to have as a community member, please let me know and we will definitely reach out to them. We do have Wesley Johnson who is joining us, and I will be with Reverend Parker next week, and I was going to talk to him and talk to him about this initiative that we're having. We did have a very short communication about it several months back as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, because I think at those places you really need a contact person
Mhm.
because churches, COVID came, the churches sort of just, people stopped going.
Mhm.
And sometimes when you have a contact person to say, okay, to the minister, this is what's going on, and we need parents there, that's more influence than just
Yep.
sitting out a message to the
I
parents.
totally agree. Yep.
And Ms. Cooper, I remember when we were doing this work in Chicago, the churches were a huge partner, and I think that's a very important reminder that they need to be brought into the fold, brought at the table too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I can add to that many of the people who have taken Parent C in the past, PEP, and different trainings that we do are part of what we call our cultural brokers groups. And so they reach out or are part of these community organizations and our churches and different other civic organizations, and they are bringing that message back. And that's how the group grew from 10 to 20 from the December meeting to this meeting tomorrow.
Do we have anybody from like city council or anybody from the city themselves being involved in this?
The mayor's supposed to be sending someone tomorrow. He's been fully appraised of this all the way along. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can use all the help from anywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we want it to be. We want people to, we want to be able to hear from folks, or the group does. Yeah.
Oh, and also, and I'm not sure what the case is in Norwalk, but the mayor in Bridgeport actually has made this an ongoing budget item.
Mhm.
And so in Bridgeport, not Bridgeport, I'm sorry, in Waterbury,
Waterbury.
it's actually a budget item for the city.
Yeah.
They don't fund the entire program, but part of it, a percentage of it is paid for by the city of Bridgeport. And so, whether or not it's going to be added to the city budget or not, I don't know. But in other cities and other towns, they have engaged the city in that way because it truly is a city initiative to help complement district goals.
Right. Very true.
The 250,000 sounds like a lot, but I know that we were talking about the summer programs and, that money kind of goes quickly. So I'm sure there's a lot of things on the list. I'm sure you have some sort of a list where the priorities, I know that we were talking about absenteeism. You mentioned this today during this meeting. So I'm sure there'll be a goal and eventually hoping to grow this program, right? So,
Go ahead.
Us, I know that it's we're crawling, we're just kind of starting up, but that kind of a grant, what is the committee at this point feel that can be achieved? Is it one area, or is it like an after school program or an run through the month?
So the whole idea behind Collective Impact, to answer your question, is not to fund programs, but it's to look at what programs are already out there and how can we best leverage the capacities that we have right now. And so the Nellie Mae Fund is to get this whole collective impact off the ground. It's not for, and when I wrote it, I purposely did not write it for programs at this point yet. We need to get we need to get our foundation built first. And then as the group decides what their cornerstones will be, then we'll be able to look at, should there be, some funding from another foundation that goes to the after school program? How do we leverage some of the state funds that, we do already in the district for after school and summer programs? But we need to know exactly what are the assets first in the community. And so that everybody can say, here's where my organization excels. And it's in two ways an organization excels. One is the programs that they offer. How do we help build those programs and create synergy between them to have more robust programs? And then the second part of that is how does an organization, what capacity and what assets does an organization itself have that can make this collaboration even stronger? So that's going to be part of this asset mapping. We might have an organization that comes in and says, I have a DEI trainer that I'm willing to put forth to do training around diversity, equity, and inclusion for this project. Or it might be somebody that says, I have a consultant on my board that does organizational development. And so, and he or she is willing to do more work for every organization that's at the table. So there's really two different levels that we'll be focusing on in this in the community asset mapping. But I don't see that money will be used for programs anytime soon. We need to get the foundation built first. And really specifically to responding to the grant proposal, they want to see that this foundation is well built before I would even go back and ask them for more funding for programs. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments? Going once. Oh, Kate.
I just want to say thank you again, Dr. Mead.
Thank you.
Really always bring everything to the table, and you really are very thoughtful about the way you do it. So I do appreciate the enormous lift that your office is doing on our behalf.
Well, I have to give kudos to the team that I work with, both at the cabinet level and the support that I get there, and then for my team in the office and my FRCs, my school readiness programs, all the programs. They really are the supporters of all of this. And it's where we get a lot of our great ideas from as well. Yeah. Thank you.
And if
Al.
The meeting is at 11:15 tomorrow.
Yes. Yes.
Does that meet only a small portion of your targeted group because of, I'm thinking people out working? Or does it work, 11:15 work for the target market that you're trying to approach?
I
So-
think we need to clarify, this is a representative group,
Mhm.
because I think it's coming across as if we're meeting with families as part of the collective impact work and this kind of prep work. So can you clarify who this
Sure.
committee is?
So we do have families sitting at the table, people that are, work a second shift or a night shift or whatever. And then we have people from agencies. That is something that we will have discussions about. How do we balance our meetings so that we're hitting people that can come during the day? And we know that's not going to be conducive to our student population. And so do we rotate our meetings where we have an afternoon, a midday meeting for lunch? Do we then do the next month an evening meeting? How are we going to form those committees and have the workers on the committees? Maybe the committees meet at night and the leadership group meets during the day. So those are all things that we're still wrangling with, but will come out after we process all these different things. We'll be able to answer that question better. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank your team for their efforts.
Oh, thank you.
So, Anne, for the leadership team, and when you're coming in down to deciding, where to put the focus on the infrastructure or whatever direction it takes, how is that determined with, right now you're saying you have a team of 10 and that you're going to be inviting more people to be, how does,
So
is
that,
How
okay,
does
so
that-
that, good. That
Okay.
discussion will start tomorrow with our group of 20, and we may even have more than that actually show up. We will do the community mapping first, the asset mapping. We need to know what's available. And then, of course, at every meeting, we talk about who's not at the table, who do we need to invite to the table, okay? And then when we start to decide this leadership group, this beginning group better than a leadership group, or calling it a leadership group, the beginning group will start to come up with some goals, okay? And we still have a lot of research to do. So we need to have a meeting with our data person from Danbury Public Schools to talk about data and where the needs are the school. Like we talked, this needs to be a complementary endeavor that we do with the schools. And so that data will inform us. Everyone pre to the meeting was set out the new equity, Danbury's new equity profile. They were also sent out some other pre-reading material that will be used in tomorrow's work to look at what data do we have out there, what data do we still need. And so that will help inform any decisions about what cornerstones we take. And then, like I said, we'll go back out to a larger group, probably through surveys, through forums, listening forums, meeting in different community groups, where should the priorities lie? What works for your group? And things like that. So it is a very integral, carefully balanced process. And that's why we have Eric Lunding. He is actually leading it. I'm able to sit back as a participant in the group as well as everyone else. And he really leads the group and asks those hard questions. And that's why, we used Bridgeport and Stanford last time to get their feedback. And then tomorrow we'll have the gentleman come in via Zoom from Cincinnati to talk more about the national model and what they do.
And can you repeat the name of the gentleman that you just mentioned?
Alex Lunding, Lunding.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Sounds like a big undertaking. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Everybody good? Okay, so I'm motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, so thank you. All right, so thank you very much. We were moved by Lauren and seconded by Al Russo.
Great.
Thank you so much for everybody coming out tonight, participating.